All right, welcome back to the Miss Art World podcast. Thank you, as always, for listening. Very exciting podcast for today. I have my co host, Samuel Cooksey, with Samuel Cooksey Project. How are you?
What up, everyone? Excited to talk about art today. Woo!
Samuel has his own podcast. He's also an author, so you can check him out on Instagram at Samuel Cooksey Project. Gosh darn it. I really want to put a freaking S to that.
You could
Okay.
just send it to my regular Instagram too, because anything that says Samuel Cooksey, it falls under that umbrella. I have they can even just go samuelcooksey.com. It'll pop up.
There you go. And then today we have Oscar Ramirez, who is a modern contemporary realism painter. He is on Instagram under Art Underworld. He also has a website, artunderworldla.com. Welcome, Oscar. How are you?
Well, I'm good, thank you. It's an honor to be here. Excited.
So let's just maybe start with your background. How did you get started in art?
I started with art since I was a kid. I've always liked the art in the books. You know, while the teacher was teaching, I was always that kid going straight to the pictures, and I was always trying to um, dissect the art for some reason and try to copy the art that I would see. And that's how I started with art, and that's how I actually still learn to this day, even at the training facilities where I'm at. As an instructor's talking, I like to draw and stuff like that. Helps me memorize a lot of stuff. But I started art since I was a kid in grade school, um, and it's evolved over the years. But um, I started doing graffiti art maybe in like 92, 93. Um, from that graffiti art, I also started evolving for a while, um, meeting new artists, graffiti artists from the street. You're always evolving because you're seeing their art and always trying to compare each other's artwork. You start adapting to other styles, but um, yeah, I've been doing art since the early '90s, late '80s maybe.
And then do you still go out and do graffiti art?
You know, I don't anymore. I evolved from a graffiti artist. I do paint every night though. I do a lot of oil on canvas. I also do custom like hoods on welding hoods because I'm also
Yeah, I saw that on your Instagram. Those are really cool.
yeah.
How much do you charge as an art? I am assuming the people that buy them maybe use them, but how much do you charge for those?
I, I, I'm sorry. I start my hoods at $100 for the art.
Mhm.
They gave me their hoods because they want to use. Some guys have the same hood for many years.
Yeah.
So they like to give me their personal hood, and I start on the art, and depending on like the detail and stuff, the price goes up.
Yeah,
But
because those are really cool. I enjoyed looking at all of those
oh, cool.
on your Instagram.
Yeah, the guys really dig it because there's nothing out there like that. It's just
Hmm.
usually when you buy your hood, it's just a plain hood. If you do buy a store bought one with like graphics, it's not really like the cool graphics. It's just like a copy paste graphics, I guess, on the hoods.
And it's not art. A lot of times, when you get those kind of they say it's art style, where
Yeah,
it's just everyone has the same look. It's
yeah,
not creative in any certain way.
yeah, exactly. That's how I feel. It's like yeah, you can. I've seen that 100 times already.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's mass produced in China
yeah,
compared to this is the one and only thing,
yeah,
where the style and the flaws and the perfection each piece really shows through and makes it unique and individual.
yeah. Correct. Yeah, the guys really dig it. I mean, they because I try to personalize some of the hoods. I'll let them. I tell them, what things would you like, and they let me flow with it. They're like, "Hey, whatever you want to do." Most of the time, some guys they want me to add something special, unique to them.
Mhm.
So I add that on the hood.
Because
Uh,
you're a union iron worker,
correct.
right? So
Yeah.
these are people that you work with.
Well, a lot of them I meet them through my art because there is like over 5,000 members. So you don't know all the guys until you meet them when they come pick up the hoods, or they'll send me a message through my Instagram that they want some work done. So a lot of guys I haven't met, but I do, we consider each other brothers. So I do meet them, and I think I'm known in the trade for my art.
Which
So
is,
then, oh, go, Katie.
I was just gonna say it's interesting, probably being the artist in that field because I wouldn't think that there was that many art types in that field, and maybe that's just me stereotyping like union iron workers as like, the strong men that get the job done, but and
Yeah,
there's the stereotype with artists, so it's just interesting that you have both, and I am curious to talk about how your coworkers think of you and interact with you, you being the artist.
yeah. When I first got into the trade, a lot of people didn't know I was an artist until they would see my hood. I had my hood blasted with all kinds of graffiti art and characters and stuff like that. So they were like, "Wow, that's so cool! Where'd you get that?" I'm like, "Oh, I did it." And that's how I started kind of opening up to a lot of the guys. This world, this ironworker world, is not your everyday office job. It's very different, and it's very rough. It's a very dangerous job. So the guys that are out there are, rough characters, you can say. They call it the rare breed. Not too many guys can do what these guys can do up there. Um, so it was hard for me to open up in the beginning, but after a while, you become one of them, and start opening up like, hey, this is what I do, and some were like, well, what are you doing here? You do that, and so they kind of trip out sometimes that I'm balancing both worlds. Um, I kind of like it, because sometimes I feel like a superhero. Sometimes, like I go out there with them and hang and bang, and then come out and paint at night. So I think it's pretty cool. I think they like it. Um, they'll ask me, like, well, what do you think when you're painting, or what do you do when you get home after a hard day's work? What do you go paint? Aren't you tired? So it's pretty cool. It's interesting. I don't know. I think they find it that it's kind of unique in a sense.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So then, when you first started, because you did graffiti art, do you think your art changed? Because looking at the Instagram, a lot of your canvases are like hard, like very thick brush strokes.
Yes.
Um, did you always have that kind of style, or did it change from when you were younger?
Yeah. Well, my style was I had a lot of vibrant colors. I used to have a bunch of markers, these designer markers, and I used to like blending these colors. And uh, growing up doing this for many years, I perfected, I guess, blending my colors really good. And I get a lot of compliments on my colors. But
Hmm.
I also have a sister that she's also an artist, and she's older than me, and she inspired me also to do art. And one time she gave me, these 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 tubes of paint. I never painted in my life. I wanted to paint like her. So she gifted me these paint tubes, and I didn't know how expensive they were. So I like poured them all out on the plate and started dabbing on these textures. I'm like, well, I'm gonna make like this cool textures. And one of my favorite artists is Van Gogh. So I, I textured a lot of like Van Goghish type paintings. And then when my sister saw it, she saw the paint. She was like, What are you doing?" I'm like, "Yeah, those tubes. I need another set because they're, I finished them or whatever." She's like, "What do you mean?" So I kind of taught myself how to do the texture type. Um, I really like it. It kind of makes the painting kind of look 3D-ish. In the pictures, you can't really tell, but in person, you can kind of see the difference on the paintings.
Hmm.
I get compliments on that style, but I don't just stick to that style. There's other styles that I like to do that I like to mess around with. But that's my original style, is that texture.
One thing I really like that you do too is that you do some work with the black light. So
Yes,
you put poems. So you're looking at the picture, and you don't even know that there's a poem
yes,
hidden in there. And I think that's really a neat, like almost Easter egg. If someone was looking at it and they didn't know who the artist was, and then they
yeah,
went to go find out who you were and found out that, maybe that art piece had a poem in it. It's kind
yeah.
of a neat thing.
Shout outs to Sister Catherine from elementary school. She would make me write poems, uh, all our classmates, but she was always big on poems, and she would make you write a poem. And they're an elementary school kid. I'm like, how am I gonna write a poem? So being introduced to poetry like that at a young age was really cool.
Was
And
this in Catholic school? Did you
yeah,
say? Oh, okay.
yeah, it was a Catholic school. I was a Catholic school when I was a younger kid, um, and she would make us write those poems, and I loved writing poems. I to this day I still write poetry. I have books of poetry. I never imagined anybody reading my poems. Um, and just recently I started going back and looking at some of this poetry that I wrote, and I started putting them on my paintings, but I didn't want it to override like the paintings that I was doing. So I thought of an idea. I'm like, oh, cool. I'm gonna secretly put it in there, and if they want to show their friends or their families some of the secret poetry, they can do it with the little black light. So I started doing that, and then I appeared on a local Spanish newspaper for that, and I started doing it more often. I don't do it 100% all my paintings, but I try to. Um, and I also label the back to make sure that there's a secret poetry in the back. I was thinking in my mind, I would hate to see one of my paintings 100 years from now and nobody know that there's a poem in there. No one knows about it. So I make sure in the back I put on their secret UV poetry on the back. I like doing like antiques and stuff like that, and sometimes I run across like some really cool paintings, and I'll buy them, and there's no signature, and I try to dissect, like, it frustrates me, like, who's this artist? I wish I knew who did it, So I don't want my paintings to ever like land in a spot like that and then people not know, who did it, I guess. Yeah.
That's so funny because I hate signing my own work. My dad gets super upset that I don't sign it. I'm like, yeah, it doesn't matter.
Oh yeah, do it.
But
Yeah.
but you'd be frustrated because you'd be
Yeah.
like, what the heck?
I always tell people it's like watching the 3-hour movie and then someone turns off the TV and no one knows what happened at the end. That's how I feel about like not signing it. But yeah, there's a lot of art out there that's really cool, and it's hard to find out who painted some of this stuff. Yeah.
So with your work, you do, from looking at your Instagram lately, you kind of focus on political pieces as well as um, portraits. Like, what would you say your focus is lately with your artwork?
Lately, well, I don't like getting too political, but I have to. Right now we have a in my opinion, ex-sitting president that evokes hatred and racism in society, and that really speaks volumes of what society is today. And I always try to use my art as a platform. Um, I want to give a voice to people that have been marginalized in society and oppressed. And this president, he's supposed to be our leader, and that's what he's doing, And this is 2020, and with all this social media and stuff like that, and how they say history always repeats itself, and me seeing it on TV every day is really rough. And so I try to use my art to bring a voice to all these people that this man is talking about, that's all those lies that he puts out is not true, So I even painted Donald Trump not in a good way, but in a bad way, because that's what he does every day on his Twitter and all that. So I kind of try to turn the tables on him. How would he like it if he did that to or people did that to him every day. So I have a few paintings of him. One I took to a show in San Francisco at a cafe, and it was so polarizing that even the curator from the art show was like, I don't know if we want to put this up in display, because
Oh, really?
yeah, just seeing him, even though they knew it was like mocking him, just seeing his picture, like, it just throws the whole vibe of the art show. I guess it was a smaller art show, and I was like, you know what, I'm fine with it. I'm like, I did it for that purpose, to bring the attention to what's going on. But at the end of the day, they're the ones that control that. But yeah, I try to use.
Did they end up putting it up?
No, they didn't.
Okay, they
Oh,
didn't.
that's so interesting.
Yeah, they didn't. And I understand, um, it was actually like in Albany, in that little area, Albany, California. And, I understand. And it's just that his presence, just people seeing him, like it was up for a little bit and just people seeing it and you would see it in their face, like, oh my gosh, this guy, it just brought a negative vibe to wherever
Mhm.
I would bring that painting. And, yeah, but I try to use the art for different purposes too. I painted one night. I saw this street vendor right here in LA. I guess he got assaulted. Um, you know, racism. He was selling his corn, and this guy flipped over his corn cart, and his corn went flying everywhere. And it was so sad. It was at night, and I had an empty canvas, and I was gonna paint that night and seeing it over and over. I was on YouTube watching the video. I was so upset that night I think I painted like 6 hours straight. I got tunnel vision. I just started painting to the wee hours, and then I uploaded and I sent it and I went to sleep. And when I woke up in the morning, my phone was going off and stuff like that, and like channel 52 and some other social media outlets were trying to contact me. Um, it was, I try to give a voice to those people that that have been like assaulted and stuff and forgotten and stuff. And so I did that painting, and I got to meet that guy, and I told him, that painting was for you. That it gives a voice to people that do the same thing that you do. You go out there and try to feed your family, and someone just comes and tries to rip that away from you just because of of the person that you are. And so I try to use my art. Um, I guess it heals myself as well, but
Mhm.
I'll try to give a voice to people in society, I guess.
Okay, so the guy, you saw it on YouTube, right? Or
Yeah,
saw it on online?
yeah.
Okay, for some at the very beginning of the story, I thought you were maybe like looking outside your window and you saw it, and then
No,
just
no,
record. You're like, hold on a second, I need to record
no.
this.
Yeah, no. It
Okay,
was it was on the news, and then I went on.
okay.
Yeah, it was in the news, and then I went on YouTube, and I was watching this over and over, and it was frustrating, and it was sad that this is our world that we live in. So I used my
Mhm.
art in that platform, and I actually they had a show, and he was invited to the show, and he showed up, and it was pretty cool for him to see that painting that I did of him. And
Can
Where's
you
that painting now?
describe, yeah, can you describe the painting too of what it
yeah,
looked like?
yeah. So that painting was it's him with his corn cart, and there's a community standing behind him, and there's like a little community dog, and everybody's pointing at the us because the guy was on video pointing at the suspect and telling him to scram to get out of the community, and he had the back of all the people. So there's like an old lady, an old man, a kid, a dog, the whole neighborhood behind like man and his corn cart, and the guy has his hands up like, oh, I give up, and that image was very powerful, I guess, and that was the purpose of that art.
Hmm.
That you can't do that and get away with it. There's a community behind all these people, and yeah, so that I I got some feedback, positive feedback because of that painting, and that painting now belongs to the Costa family, and this family bought it because they love art, and I guess her daughter went away to college, and they felt they were missing something in her house, and she liked art, and so did the mom. So they bought that piece, and they couldn't wait to for them to show her when she came back from school. So
Oh,
Oh,
nice.
yeah, so I thought it was pretty cool. It was an awesome piece, and it felt good for a family like that to have it.
What would be your favorite piece that you've done so far,
One
or
of my
that's currently your favorite piece?
Um, one of my favorite pieces. Well, I have a few, but one of my current favorite pieces. I painted JFK, and he's sitting in his presidential chair, and he has his hands like in the cusp, and he's not smiling or anything. He has that JFK haircut and his blue eyes, and it just reminds me of what a president used to be. Like a real president, a real leader. And I did that painting, and I don't know. I think that's one of my favorite pieces. Not everybody is like, oh, who is that guy? But
Hmm.
um, It's one of my personal favorite pieces, I guess. Yeah.
So
And then
you go ahead,
nope.
Samuel. I was gonna go a different route.
All right,
So
no, keep going. I was gonna pivot too. Pivot,
oh,
pivot.
okay. I was gonna ask you, you had mentioned a little bit earlier, and I also saw on your YouTube that you go out and do plein air painting in the city. How often do you do that? Do people respond to you? Do you enjoy doing that? Can you talk about that experience? Because I know that a lot of artists go to nature, but you're going into the
Ground zero.
city nature. Yeah, the
Yeah, you know what? It's very hard to do that. I never imagined myself ever painting live like that in person. Like I do it right here in downtown. I just recently did. I shot like a little short film um, with this producer. His name is James Trotter, and he has this cool setup with like a 360 camera. And I painted a theater right here down the street on Broadway Street. It's an iconic theater, and the Zoot Suit riots happened in the in the 40s, and there's a famous picture that I saw there, and I wanted to paint it, and I painted it in the street. There was like cars coming by, and then people walking behind me, and some local gangsters walking behind me that saying, "Hey, what are you doing here?" And it's really hard to do because people are asking you questions and you have to focus. But luckily, I have like 5 different minds, so I'm really cool with that. So I feel sometimes like my other mind's talking to these guys back here, and my other mind is painting, and my other mind is like making sure I'm safe and stuff like that. So it's pretty cool. It's different when I paint out in the street. It's not the same style of art because I'm not just focusing just on the painting. When I paint right here, I get to focus strictly on the canvas, so I can tell the difference. I don't know if other people can tell the difference when I paint out, but um, it's a unique experience. It's very hard to describe though, but when I do it, I feel so exhausted because it feels like you're in high alert for some reason. And when I get back home and start bringing back my paints, I feel suddenly really tired and exhausted. Yeah.
all your
Well, you're kind of
minds need to rest.
yeah, and you're kind of performing at that point too. So
Yeah.
like whenever you're out in public, you have all those things where you're trying to, fit in with what's going on around you, but at the same time stand out to where whatever you're painting isn't necessarily going to like get you punched in the
Yeah,
back of your head
exactly.
or something like that.
Yeah. So
Or like someone stealing your art.
yeah, correct. It's fascinating. That day that I was painting that art, because it was actually history. I like painting history, and I like painting history that people forgot and don't even know that there's history behind some of these paintings. Um, and I painted that because it was a 2 young Mexican boys that were assaulted, and there was a book that I saw when I was a kid, and I flipped over this magazine and I saw these kids stripped and they were only in their underwears. They were beaten up, and there was like people in the background. There was a LAPD officer just standing there watching the kids, like, oh well, they got beat up. Oh well. And what happened is that Zoot Suit riots is a lot of these servicemen were ripping their wool suits away from these kids because they were like baggy, like baggy Pachuco style suits. And that's kind of what I see that's going on with with the president now and stuff like that, like a lot of racism stuff. And that image was stuck in my mind for many years. And I have a little book that I have a list of paintings that I wanted to paint, and I painted that painting. And the Zoot Suit riots also happened with the local gang that happens to be around here. And so when those kids were walking by, they were from that gang. So when the guys, they were kind of curious walking behind me, I was kind of like on high alert. Um, they're like, "Hey, what are you painting?" And I was telling them, "Hey guys, the Zoot Suit riots or whatever. Have you heard of the Sleepy Lagoon?" And they're like, they're like, their eyes opened up. They're like, "Yeah, we're from that gang that comes out in that history on that story." And my parents were in that gang, so they were like 3rd generation gangsters from that
Oh, no
era.
way.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool. And I was like, wow, I was amazed. I was talking to them, and that was pretty cool. They were like 16, 17-year-old kids. and they knew about that history that happened in the 40s, you know. So that was pretty powerful to paint and stuff like that. So I do try to paint um, um, images that has been forgotten in history. I also did a painting of a young boy named Juan Romero when JFK, my favorite president, that's why I painted him. When he got assassinated, everybody scrammed, everybody started running, and the one person that came to his aid was a 16-year-old Mexican American boy. He was a dishwasher at the hotel, and he runs up to him and he's cradling his head, as he's dying. And I think Time Magazine, they snapped a picture, a black and white picture, and it's like the picture of this kid holding the president, while everybody was like, kind of scared because it was a loud bang,
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that guy's a superhero, but there's no monuments, there's no history behind him. So I decided to paint him so people won't forget about him. To me, he's a hero to me, if you get shot and someone comes to your aid, they're not painting, comes to your aid, I think that's a real hero.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so many people have that flight mentality that if something happens, they need to run.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And that's very common. I've seen it in person, and to me, like a real hero, they always throw that word, oh, our heroes are heroes. Like, no, that they're getting paid. So that's their job. It's not really a hero, A real hero to me is like, they're risking their own lives to save another human being. That's a hero in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So your artwork is very, I would say, like, activism is part of your concept behind why you paint what you paint.
A lot of it, yes. A lot of it, unwilling. Sometimes I don't realize that I'm doing some of this stuff, but I do try to be like diverse in some of the art. I don't just paint like political or activism stuff. I try to be very balanced, but sometimes I do more kind of weight on the other side, more like political and history side of art, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I really sometimes I don't notice it, like you just brought it up, and now I'm gonna look back at some of my paintings and see what in it.
Well, it seems like that's what you're passionate about, because you go into the stories and why you're painting this certain painting, and like so many visuals come in my head of the story, and then what the painting must look like, that you've painted this young dishwasher, like
Yeah,
what that must look like. It makes me really interested, but it's from your passion of
correct. Yeah,
wanting to paint
yeah.
people that have been forgotten. It's just a very lovely concept.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I painted one of my other paintings. Now that you brought that up, is Sitting Bull, and I came across.
Oh, I was just talking about that painting with Katie before
Oh,
we got on,
oh,
because
cool.
I was like, oh, that's one of my favorite canvas, because I was already telling her how much I like the mask painting, the style on the mask, but that
Yeah.
was one of my favorite canvases, the Sitting Bull.
Yeah, Sitting Bull. I haven't displayed that one yet, but I have it hanging. And I came across a book, and I was reading this book, and I'm like, man, this guy actually he beat a U.S. Army really, and I'm like, it's not in the history books. I'm like, that's so odd, and they never really taught me in depth about this man. So I started doing research. Now you can do research, online and stuff. So, and it was very interesting, and I sat down and I painted, Sitting Bull, and then I stared at that painting for many days, and I really enjoyed that painting. And again, painting because I feel that sometimes they forget about these people,
Mm-hmm.
and the history behind that. I thought was really cool.
When you display your artwork, especially like Sitting Bull,
Yeah.
do you have a little plaque or something that you put up that talks about the history a little bit, or no?
You know what? I don't. Maybe I should though. But I usually don't have a plaque. Reason why I painted some of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I feel sometimes I'm still like a hidden gem still. I'm trying to like emerge from all these other artists. One day I hope. I feel that I'm rough sometimes still, but slowly I feel that I want to come out and and be a gem one day with all my art that I have.
Mhm.
But yeah, I should maybe do something like that, I guess.
Because it's interesting because it's a really good picture, and I kind of knew who Sitting Bull was going into it, but you're right. There's a lot of people that have no clue who Sitting Bull is.
Yeah, they
Um,
know the other natives, but like his history. I guess they try to bury some of his history because of the like the war with the U.S. and then kind of make the U.S. kind of look kind of like they lost
mhm.
certain battles. So they don't want to put that in, I guess, in the history books. I felt so they kind of press
You
that
know,
down.
I feel like they don't even want to talk about it at
Yeah.
all. It's even because we did win,
Yes.
the U.S. won overall, and they don't even talk about that too much, just because they don't want anyone to know that basically when the U.S. came over, they didn't want the people that were already on the land to stay there. They
Yeah.
wanted them to move along. Come on, let's go.
Yeah.
Oh, you're upset that you're not going to be able to live here anymore? Then let's fight. And it's very buried with our U.S. history.
Because they actually captured him and he was incarcerated basically.
Mhm.
Um, it was like terrorism in my opinion, but they don't want the reminders of that to fall in place in today's society. So I don't see it too much in history. So that was one of the main reasons why I went with that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know why. I think it's a very old school way of thinking of, hey, let's not talk about it because we progressed so far. But
Yeah.
one thing I always like is if you don't know your history and what's happened in the past, how could you ever strive to be better?
Yeah, and
And it
that bad history will repeat itself with like
exactly, it will repeat itself.
yeah.
And it's not something that you should feel like you personally feel ashamed because you didn't go out and do it, but you should know that that's what happened, and that your step is not to do that again.
Exactly.
Anyway.
I agree with you 100%. Yeah. Yes.
Do you have any upcoming shows coming up? Or I know with COVID it's probably complicated, but
Yeah. I did. I did have a lot of shows before the COVID hit, and that kind of I started feeling sad because like it kind of throws you like I felt like unbalanced kind of because
Mm-hmm.
like the paintings, a lot of people weren't seeing some of my artwork and stuff, so I was just piling up all these paintings and stuff like that, and um, it's not easy, and a lot of these shows got canceled and stuff like that, and it's still hard even for today to try to do something. um, I did a live painting a few weeks ago. um, I was supposed to do another one in downtown, but it's very hard because like all these people, gathering in one place and stuff like that. And now there's a spike, I guess, with the coronavirus. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not easy. And then it's frowned upon too when you're having, a show and there's a bunch of people in that little small space. So it's very hard. It is very hard.
And kind of like what you said too, like if you took a picture of your painting, it's hard to tell the texture of
Yeah.
the paint strokes and things like that, because for the painting it's flat. When
Yeah.
you look at it in person, it brings more in front.
Yeah. It was when I do a lot of commission pieces, that piece that's back here, that's actually a commission piece. I do several of those commission pieces, and I paint a lot of dead loved ones and so on. And I'll write secret messages in the work, and they really love it. But I'm like, oh, just wait till you see it in person,
Mm-hmm.
No matter how you have a good iPhone, no matter what picture I take, it doesn't compare to when they see it in person. They get to see the texture. Um, they're usually blown away by it, and seeing their expression, I feed off of it as well. It motivates me to do the next art piece, and I feel that every single art piece that I do, I get better and better. So constantly, always trying to evolve and perfect the art is what I'm trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
did you ever like go to art school or anything like that? Or are you totally
No,
self-taught?
yeah, self-taught. I did when I was in high school. I did. I was a 16-year-old kid, and I had this brochure that said Platt College in Pasadena somewhere, And I went to the local high school and I said, hey, I heard there's a trip to go see the college. And they're like, okay. So they put me on this bus with these adults. And I got to ride in a school bus to pass it to that Platt College. And I was so excited to see this art and my dreams to go there one day. And when I went there and I was walking with all the group of students, adults, and I got to see the brochure, how much they charge for the year. And I was mind blown. I was a kid. I was like, what? And I'm like, my parents don't even make that, you know? So I was so sad on the ride home. I'm like, with the dreams of me, you know, I had in my imagination, wow, when I graduate from high school, I want to go to this, you know, art college. But as soon as I saw that brochure, you know, I didn't have no role models within that spectrum where they were like, you know, there's grants and so on. I didn't know any about that. And the high school that I went to were at that time they weren't really trying to help me, you know.
Don't worry, the high schools still don't. So
yeah, and
it doesn't really change.
I remember a counselor telling me, why do you want to repeat this class? I'm like, because I got a C and I'm trying to get an A. He's like, oh, don't worry about it. That's a C is fine enough. You pass it, you're passing. And I was like, okay. So back then it was really, really hard for them counselors to even try to go above and beyond to try to push a young adult like myself.
Mm-hmm.
I wish there was a role model and someone at that office at that time to say, hey, I know they charge this much, but maybe because of this, you know, you can get help and try to get into the school.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't know that. And, you know, growing up, I was a 16-year-old kid. My dad was murdered in the streets of Los Angeles. So I didn't have a father figure after the age of 16. I did have my brother and stuff like that, but we were kind of rough edged, kind of, I guess. And my brother actually, through all this, somehow he was very smart. He ends up going into USC and graduated from USC. So that I felt kind of saved me a little bit, that seeing my brother actually went to a university and so on.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how he did it because like the area where we lived and how we grew up was really bad. So I'm lucky to have an older brother, kind of balance me out, I guess, a little bit.
Are you the youngest?
No, I have a younger sister, but I'm the youngest male. It's me and my brother.
Okay, so there's 4 of you in total?
Yes.
Okay.
And having my brother kind of, he would put me on check every once in a while, you know, not get too carried away. He would always try to check me.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
That's the role of the older brother.
Yeah, right.
He's supposed to keep the younger ones in line.
Yeah. I don't know about that. My brother's not doing very well.
Hey, that's horrible.
Just kidding.
So with your dad, you know, you said he was murdered at an early age. Do you feel that one of the reasons you paint people that are kind of like unsung heroes is because you've had that loss and you don't want his story to kind of disappear?
Correct. Yeah.
Or not be known?
That's it's funny. You should be a psychologist. But art, it really saved my life. It heals me. You know, something tragic like that happens. You have to have some sort of help. You know, there's no way a human being can survive in this rough world without, you know, any form of help. And I feel that art really heals me. And I love seeing the expression of other people when they love my art, you know, and it helps them. It's like a double-edged sword sometimes. Like, wow, you know, I gave up a lot of my time for this painting, but it's also helping somebody else. So sometimes when I paint, like, you know, like dead loved ones on some of this art, you know, like I put a lot of energy into it, but I know the big reward is going to help this person that's going to receive this art heal, and it also heals me. So yeah, I always say, hey, art heals. Is very powerful.
It is, especially since you're putting so much, you know, expression into it. I think if you were just kind of, you know, copy and pasting things or just
I see that
doing, but since you are putting kind of your heart and soul into that piece, and then when you see it, you know, respond well to the person, I think that's where the, you know, the healing comes from.
Yeah, it's worth. You feel the energy, and sometimes when I paint, it's harder to describe, and I really don't tell a lot of people because they probably think I'm crazy. But sometimes when I'm painting these people, like I can feel their energy and their images in my head, like they're smiling.
Mm-hmm.
Um, or they'll tell me, "Oh, I can't wait," till my mom sees this, and they're not really speaking to me, but it's like this in my mind.
Yeah, it's the energy. We literally just talked to another lady that her whole thing is like painting with the energy that she feels around her. And it's crazy that you kind of bring up the same thing of, the energy kind of goes through you into the
Yeah,
piece.
the piece,
And
yeah.
that's one of the reasons she says that, people can feel that what you're supposed to feel through it.
Yeah, or sometimes it feels like they're right next to you, like on the side. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I really haven't perfected it, because it's not easy. It doesn't happen all the time. Most of the time, um, I didn't understand it. I thought it was just crazy. And art, it's helped me in different forms, I guess. It kind of makes me feel, normal, I guess. Um,
Mm-hmm.
because all this thoughts and stuff like that I thought like, man, I'm not gonna tell that person because they're gonna really think I'm loony. Uh, but when I do paint and they're like, wow, how'd you know that was his favorite color or something like that, like I wouldn't say nothing at first, but now I'm more open and freely and talk about it. Just
Mm-hmm.
last night I was texting a person about their piece. I took a picture of it and I sent it to him, and I was just curious in my mind. I asked her, hey, did this person like drinking beer? And they asked why, and the reason why is like he kept hovering over me and he had like a beer can, so I'm like, maybe he really liked drinking beer or something. It was just like, little things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But it does help me in life, and I also want the art to also help somebody else. I don't want to be greedy and like, oh, I'm only painting to help me. That's not the case. Like I want the art to help me, but also help somebody in a positive way as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's really, it is neat. I feel like with the day and age, we get away from talking about the kind of spiritual side of life. And there's a big chasm for it. Like there's, you see a lot of self-help books that start bringing it back. But I feel like with, you going to school and you're talking about just the science behind everything, we forget there's a whole spiritual world that you don't even kind of see, but you can feel it. And there's no science that's ever going to be able to tell you that how you're feeling or why you're feeling. It's
Yeah.
just, it's kind of your soul
Yeah.
speaking to the other spirits or the
Exactly.
other souls that are around you.
It's your soul inside, and you write a book. If Sam writes a book, they're gonna be, and that guy's crazy. So a lot of people really touch on that subject. And also a lot of like some of my art pieces, I my dad's in a lot of these pieces. They don't know about it, but it's my dad's. Um, he used to walk around with this parrot on his shoulder. So there's a piece of downtown. There's a man and there's a parrot. That's my dad. A lot of people don't know that. And I use a lot of like burgundy colors in there, and that's my dad's favorite color. So um, I use a lot of those colors in there for that reason. And then I really didn't realize it until I started looking at a lot of my pieces, and I started putting some of these pieces together, and I was like, yeah, that's my dad's favorite color. Or, like did that for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but um, yeah, it I guess I'm healing myself as well, and I don't realize it, but I guess through the art, um, people see it, but they don't have any ties to it because they don't know what I'm really going through sometimes when I'm painting this, unless I'm like right now telling you guys why these things are there.
Did you
Well,
ever, as a younger, boy, especially after your father, and you said your brother kind of helped keep you in line, how did you like? I guess it's just I kind of already answered my question. You said your brother kind of helped you, but how hard was it to keep you know going the right direction instead of getting involved in like a gang, or maybe you were involved in a gang for a little bit but were lucky enough to kind of get out? Like, did you have one of those moments as a younger child?
Yeah, I used to hang around with a bunch of guys. There was so many guys, and my brother was very popular, and so guys were always coming in and out of my house and stuff like that. And when we would go out, there would be like 30 guys at one night, and I'm like, man, I have so many friends, but not realizing, when you get older, your group gets smaller and smaller and smaller because you start getting wiser. I'm like, hey, that guy's a bad character.
Mm-hmm.
And what ended up happening is all these rough guys that I used to hang out with, believe it or not, I still talk to most of them this day. And we somehow created the system where we all would help each other. And they all lived in the same home like myself. They had broken homes, abusive parents, they were poor. And somehow we kind of connected and we were all on the same team kind of. And now I'm proud to say most of these guys are my friends, and they're um, professionals, a superintendent for a school,
Oh, nice.
a dean for a community college, police officers, lawyers, doctors, and it's pretty cool, to see these guys that I grew up with, and we were like very close of being, either killed or put away in prison, and to see some of these guys, and today still, we hang out once a year all together. We'll have like a cigar, whiskey event, and we all kind of network and kind of talk about life. Like, man, remember back in the day when we did this or we did that, or we almost died,
Mhm.
and to see them be successful like that is really cool. But it wasn't just my brother, it was I guess like a group of young men that didn't want to give up in life, I guess.
Yeah, it's really impressive because there's not a lot of people that can pull themselves out of those kind of situations.
Yeah,
And to
stat,
have a group of you to be able to do it is even more impressive.
yeah, and believe it or not, stats say, guys like me should have been dead or in prison, and I didn't. Um, when I was a younger kid, I saw my father in prison, and when I was a kid, going to the prison and seeing my dad behind a glass was something like I would never want my son to experience. And seeing my father there, broke my heart. And we had a bond between me and my brother, and we told each other, we never want to be in a situation like that. And through all these times, and we kept our promise, and um, thank God that I was never behind bars like that, and neither has my brother. And it was like a time where like you either choose your path, like you're gonna fall in the same path as that, or you could change it now. And me and my brother decided like, that's not for us, even though
Hmm.
we were in that group, and we changed paths right away. Yeah.
Well, before we kind of, wrap up and take your whole day with the podcast, is there anything that you kind of want to leave us like a note on kind of with your art or?
Yes, I do actually. I have a big project that I'm working on. I'm doing a two-story mural right here in downtown LA. Um, it,
Wow, two-story.
yeah, and it's in the heart of downtown LA on Olympic and Broadway. And I'm starting to sketch some stuff that I want to put up there. And so that's one of the biggest projects that I'm gonna be trying to work on. And I want people to go to my Instagram page and try to see some of the stuff that's going on. And I'm also working on another project with a female writer, Mia Hopkins. She's a sex romance novel writer,
Mhm.
and she has. It's weird. I'm even working with her. I'm honored to work with her, but she writes books with like Latino rough edged characters. So uh, I'm like I'm in her consultant team, and she's working on these books that are really good. I actually read a few. Um, one is called Trashed, and the other one is called Thirsty. And I want to tell the people, check those books out. And they're based on characters from LA, and from a guy, because they're all the stereotype of like they're supposed to be like girls reading these sexual romance novels. The first time I read them, I'm like, what is this? I read the whole book and I was excited to read her next book.
That's how you know you got a good story.
Yeah. So, I'm also trying to convince her that hopefully my art goes in some of those books. But yeah, I'm working on those projects, and those are the biggest projects that I'm working on right now, and I'm excited for that. And I hope people come and see the mural after it's done.
Yeah, very cool.
Do you have a theme for the mural, or
Yeah,
have an idea of what it's gonna look like?
Yeah, well, the building, there's a barbershop, like the vibe of this barbershop is like a gentleman's haircut place. It's a really nice barbershop, and inside there's antiques and all kinds of cool stuff. And the side of the building, it's a 2-story building. And it's in downtown, so I'm trying to like think of like an LA themed kind of storyline to it. I have a few paintings where I have a collage of like important characters, like the Martin Luther Kings, the JFKs, the Cesar Chavez, and stuff like that. So I'm trying to do something like really cool. I'm thinking like Kobe in there somehow, and some LA iconic people in that group. But I wanted to kind of be like a collage of stuff. But yeah, I think it's going to be really cool. Nice.
Are you going to try to do any blacklight hidden message in it, or no?
You know what? There's an artist. His name is Will Heron. He's badass, and he said when he saw my painting, he's like, maybe I should do it in one of my paintings, and he laughed. I'm like, yeah, you should. But then I was like, man, maybe I should do it in one of my own paintings. So I'm trying to figure out how I'm gonna try to do it. I might have to use like a big paintbrush, kind of.
Yeah.
But
Samuel's gonna be down there with a black light, like
exactly.
Hey Sam, what are you doing there?
I know it's here.
Hey, but Sam, I'm gonna take you up on that, and I'm gonna write that down after we're done with this. I'm gonna write that down, and most likely I'm gonna put that up there.
Because that would be so cool, because you see a lot of the big murals anyways, and just to have that kind of, there's something hidden in there that people wouldn't even know.
Yeah.
Would be, I mean, it doesn't even have to be the whole painting, because you'd have to have a pretty big black light to be like, 2 stories, I need to see this.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I'm gonna take you up on that, and most likely it's gonna be up in there. Maybe
that'd be awesome.
So people can see it, maybe,
Tell us spell out your Instagram for us so they can find it.
Yeah, so my name is Oscar Ramirez, and I'm under Art Underworld, all in one wording. Art, A-R-T, under, U-N-D-E-R, and world, Art Underworld. And you can find my Instagram. I have a few videos on YouTube. And also I'm under, my website is artunderworldla.com. And I should be putting up more videos. And hopefully I actually get to put this video too on the website. And I have to put more of videos that I have. I have a lot of like me sketching and stuff like that. I want to put those up so people can see more in depth of some of the stuff that I do, and try to put out my work out there. At first, I was kind of like, yeah, maybe I'll just put this out, And now I want to be more open, and I want people to see me paint. And I'm gonna try to paint more in the street and try to paint live in downtown somewhere. And yeah, if you go on my page, hopefully I'll post some dates of where I'll be painting.
No, that's cool.
People love meeting the artists and seeing the like behind the scenes you painting. So it's great that you're gonna do more of that.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna give it a go. That's my my 2021 goal is to put more videos of me behind the scene painting, be more open about some of my paintings, and that's a good idea, Sam. If put a little plaque of some of the storylines of some of these paintings that I have, I think that would be cool.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time and doing this and just talking about your artwork so openly.
Yeah, no, thank you guys. You guys are awesome. And I told you, Catherine, thank you so much for the opportunity of that dream of me being in that LA show.
Thank you for signing up for it.
Yeah. In my wildest dreams, I never really thought I would be in the stage like that. So that was really awesome. And thank you so much for that opportunity.
Of course.
Yeah, so just to fill in the listeners, they're talking about Katie had a big project for the LA Art Show, and Oscar was one of the recordings where they interviewed the diversity of LA. And they had a big event one night where they had like the red carpet and a whole bunch of like drink stations and things like that that you can go check out. And the people that were part, because when you went to the like normal showcase of it, uh, the video would just run and the red carpet was there so you can walk up and down. But the opening night was all of the people that did the interviews were there as well, so they got to walk down kind of like a fashion runway kind of thing, come to the end, do a twirl or whatever they wanted to do, and then walk back out. But it was as their videos playing above them. It was a really neat kind of project.
It was
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, it was
Great
awesome.
opening night too. If you haven't been to the LA Art Show opening night, it's definitely worth going to because there's so many different characters
Yeah,
around too.
it was awesome. It was a great experience, and me waking up the next day and I'm like, wow, that happened. You know, that was an awesome experience, and thank you so much for that.
Well, thank you. Like always, thank you for listening. You can find us now on YouTube at Miss Art World. We are posting the videos and then including some of Oscar's work throughout the video. You can also find us wherever you listen to your podcasts and check out our Instagram at Miss Art World Podcast. Thank you.